I think it was Jack Schaefer in Politico had a
Yeah.
nice rundown of all the various politicians that have gotten into scrapes like this, uh, and to me it kind of puts it into a context like not everybody is a monstrous liar. It's sort of a weird thing to get caught doing. But as I think, as Jack mentioned, but all of us at some point in our lives tells a story to our friends that we probably embellish to some degree because it makes it a better story, and you might not even totally realize that you're doing it, or you kind of realize it the first time, and you do it five more times, and and it all kind of blurs together in your mind, Uh,
Right. Well,
uh,
I thought Jack Schaefer, I think it was in Politico magazine. I think, I think he had an interesting point, which is that, there is an evolution of how Brian Williams told this story. That the first several times he told it the way that it actually happened, and the story evolved over time. And things, stories tend to become, more grandiose as they go on. I'm reminded of Al Bundy and Married with Children. I guess by the time he was middle aged, he had scored like 9 touchdowns in a high school game or something. So that does happen, but I do wonder though if Jack would have been as kind and forgiving to a politician. I mean, so in other words, politicians engage in this sort of fabulism or whatever, and media people like me and you and Brian Williams tend to be merciless in criticizing them. And here you have Schaefer, I think, essentially seeking to understand, like, why did Brian Williams do this? Why does this happen? And I'm not going to say he went easy on him because he didn't, but I do think that when he got into the sort of like psychology of why this happens, I'm not sure that we give, like, when a politician gets caught fabricating something, do we then, sort of couch it in? But, everyone sort of embellishes. I don't know that we do that.
Well, it depends a lot on the context. I mean, like some of the examples he mentioned, like with Ronald Reagan or with Senator Dick Blumenthal, there were things, but people eventually did forgive or look past it or just think it wasn't that big a deal. When it happened with Hillary Clinton, that Bosnia incident, it was in the heat of a bitter presidential primary. And
so you're talking about when Hillary Clinton claimed that she came under sniper fire.
Right.
And she had to run with her head down to, something like that. And
right.
that did become
I mean, that was a very damaging incident for her. And if I remember the chronology, I think she was already, losing that primary, but that definitely made it very hard for her to get back in it. It's kind of, but the media generally, at least initially, gives that a very harsh treatment, at first. And I think, part of the deeper question here, I mean, I think where Jack Schaefer kind of, I think, effectively lays out, it's like there is a certain human tendency to do this thing that's maybe not a wonderful human trait, but not necessarily indicative of deliberate manipulation and deceit. It's hard to know if someone's doing that sort of thing deliberately. It would seem not, because it's so easily fact checked. Why would you do it deliberately if you get humiliated so easily?
Yeah.
But I think there's sort of a larger question. How is that nobody at NBC caught this and went to Brian Williams and said, "Hey, buddy, that's not how you told it last time. We're a news operation. We fact checked
I did.
things."
So I saw a report though, Bill. I mean, there've been so much reported on this, and it's so many conflicting stories. But no, I saw a report that somebody at NBC some of the higher ups did bring this to his attention and advise him to quit telling this story. And
we don't know what happened after that.
Right. So, but it is a weird thing because it's, number one, it's a provably false thing. Number two, you've got a guy who is already incredibly, obviously public relations savvy. Schaefer made an interesting point at the end, which it's speculation, but I think there's some truth to it. Is he sort of alleged that Brian Williams might sort of subconsciously feel guilty about being about going into a cover of war, but being very protected and being with generals and not, and so there may be a sense of guilt that he essentially really wasn't put in harm's way. But